Greetings, all you manners and minds and grimes, and today I'm going to be talking about Gyre and my personal opinion on her. So, overall, I do think she's a very good frame and also very, very fun, which is much more important. She is, overall, pretty goddamn fun to play. She does a lot of damage, and there's just this flow about her that is just really, really fun. So going over her abilities really quick, the Cliff Notes version. Her one are these plasma globe things. They look like plasma globes. I mean, they're plasma globes that do damage to enemies and proc them with electricity, which feeds into her abilities. Her 2 is a crowd control ability that I subsumed off for pillage. I'll explain why later. Her 3 boosts her critical chance, which is pretty damn cool. And also, it's unique in a way because the more you kill with it, the less cooldown you have to go with. And you kill and you actually reset the timer in a way. So you can keep it up for the entire mission. But even if it goes away and you kill enough enemies, you'll be able to recast it. But if you didn't kill enough enemies, you're going to have to wait a certain amount of time. And then her 4, basically overcharges her weapons, melee, what have you, and makes huge bolts of electricity come from the sky and just absolutely smite groups of enemies, and it's very powerful. So she reminds me a lot of Li Lao from Gunfire Reborn. So if you don't know Gunfire Reborn, Li Lao is the Thundercat, and when his ult is going, whatever he shoots is smited with a huge bolt of electricity and everything around it once you get, everything going. So it's very similar to Gyre, but I feel like Li Lao just has a lot more startup power, but Gyre has more longevity in the fact that the more you use her abilities, the more things get going. She just sort of snowballs. But the concept is very similar. You do a thing with electricity and you nuke a group of enemies fairly quickly. So it's, she's a very DPS glass cannon sort of frame. And that's why I subsumed her 2 off for pillage. Now, hopefully people don't get mad at me for this, but her 2, while neat, and, crowd control and all that, that's cool. She already has enough passive crowd control with all the electricity that's going on. Also, her 4 zaps enemies and objects that get too close to her. So she could actually open up a bunch of crates if you're into that. So that's neat. So I feel like she has enough crowd control. It's just the fact that without pillage or any other way to defend herself, she is squishy. She is super fragile. She's basically as fragile as Banshee was before pillage could be subsumed on, but even more so. Because Banshee at least had her abilities that, stun the enemies and, made all your damage go through the freaking roof. Gyre doesn't have that because she doesn't have that level of, Banshee crowd control. But honestly, pillage works very well with her. I mean, it works well with most frames that require some defense. I implore you to put pillage on Harrow, replace his 4 because his 4 is kind of meh, and it will actually make you so much more survivable as Harrow and make Harrow more fun to play because you're not dying every 2 seconds if you're not careful. But that's just how I like to help frames that I feel need a bit more defense. I just throw pillage on, and it usually works. 9 times out of 10 works. And also, pillage will remove status effects from you, except for magnetic status effects from Xmas units. It doesn't remove that for some reason, which is weird, but it removes everything else. Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. It removes toxin, it removes electricity, it removes heat, but not magnetic from the energy leech Xmas's. Why? DE, please. Anyway. Gyre is a whole lot of fun to play, but she is not that fun to play in Steel Path because there's just so many enemies, and normally that's not a problem, but again, this is a very fragile frame. She, in my personal opinion, is best used in normal missions, long disruptions, uh, arbitrations, bounties, that kind of thing. Because in those missions, she's fun. She's not the easiest frame to use, thank God. I really like frames that are a little difficult to use. You have to get used to how they function and how everything works together with their kit. Those are my favorite frames. Mag is one of those frames. Yeah, she's not the easiest frame to use, but once you know how to use her, she is an absolute beast. And just so much fun. Same thing with Gyre. She's not the easiest frame to use. When you first play her, you might be confused, but just persist, maybe watch a few videos on it, and just get used to what Gyre is doing. She is a DPS frame. So, you know, that's what she is at her core. She is ridiculously powerful. But, again, she is fragile. She really is the definition of a glass cannon. Anyway, Gyre, I don't really see any need to buff her anywhere. She is one of those frames. I think she's like the first frame to come out in a long time that doesn't really need any adjustment. I would say her casting speed needs to be buffed, but I mean, I'm pretty sure natural talent will do that, but I don't have room for that on my build, so I'll just suffer, and I could just press pillage and then cast my 3 and 4 and all of that. There is well, I say that she doesn't need to change it, but there's one thing. Sometimes when you throw your these plasma globes, and if it collides with another plasma globe, or this just the field around it, it will stop, and that is really annoying. So DE should really fix that to where the plasma globes can't touch each other, so they just, go through each other, because that's a little annoying. But other than that, it's not really a big gripe. It's just sort of like, that's slightly annoying, but whatever. So overall, Gyre is fun to play, not the easiest frame in the world, high risk, high reward, and I really appreciate that. But it makes me kind of sad for Volt, because I feel like Gyre is what Volt should be, or something similar. I don't know. Volt needs a rework, and well, so does Frost, so does Hydroid, but whatever. Gyre is absolutely worth going after if you like DPS frames, if you like high risk, high reward, if you simply just like the way she looks, or anything like that. Go and try her. She's a whole lot of fun, but just keep in mind she is fragile, so I would recommend putting pillage on her to give her at least some defense. And pillage can actually, it can make you fairly tanky, because all your shields go away, then all of a sudden all your shields come back, and then you have that invulnerability layer, so that's very handy. Anyway, with all that being said, Gyre overall super fun, hard to master. She is definitely not the easiest frame in the world to pick up and play, which is honestly a good thing. And she's some good fun. Anyway, for Warframe content, I have no ideas. There really isn't much for me to cover in Warframe right now. So if the Warframe content slows down like crazy, or just stops for a while, don't be too surprised. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, in Trilby, we trust.